Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today, and welcome to our webinar, Tips for Adapting to Life in Singapore. Let me start off by introducing myself. I'm Henry, a second-year international business student. A little about myself, I would say I enjoy playing soccer, and it's a great way to stay active for me outside of studying. And I also love listening to jazz, as it helps me to relax after a long day. Additionally, I'm passionate about exploring Singapore's diverse food scene. I'm excited to host today's webinar and share valuable insights about living and studying in Singapore. Before we get started, let's go over a few house rules. This webinar will last about 60 minutes. We encourage you to join a few minutes early to ensure a prompt start. We will begin and end on time out of respect for everyone's schedule. This session will be recorded and made available on our Student Marketers LinkedIn page for those who wish to review it later or couldn't attend live. Now, I'm pleased to introduce my co-host, Chen. He will provide you with more details about today's webinar and introduce you to our esteemed speakers. Over to you, Chen.
Thanks so much, Henry. Hi, everyone. I'm Chen. I'm a second-year agriculture science student. Aside from my studies, I have a passion for gardening because it helps me relax and connect with nature. I really enjoy growing cacti and succulents. I also enjoy stamp and coin collecting because it gives me a sense of history, and it also gives me a lot of excitement when I discover new unique pieces. Just a few reminders before we begin. Please type your questions in the Q&A chat box, and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end. Please ensure clear audio for everyone, and please keep your microphones muted. Lastly, the opinions expressed during this webinar are those of the student marketers and do not necessarily represent the views or policies of James Cook University, Singapore. Now, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Judy. Judy is here to share her experiences and tips on adapting to life in Singapore. Judy, please tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure, Chen. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Judy, a first-year business student. A bit about myself, I love volunteering as it allows me to give back to the community, and I can meet new people. Listening to music is another passion of mine. It helps me relieve stress and improve my mood. I also enjoy studying here in Singapore, which has become like a second home to me over the past 8 years. During this time, I have participated in various volunteer activities and have really appreciated the sense of the community. I'm excited to share my tips with you today. Back to you, Henry.
Thank you for sharing, Judy. Now, I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Himashi. Himashi has some great insights to share about adapting to life in Singapore. So, Himashi, please go ahead.
Very good afternoon, all of you. So, I'm Himashi, a PhD student in majoring in psychology. So, a little bit about me. I have always loved psychology because it helps me understand people and their behaviors. So this curiosity about people also fuels my passion for traveling, as it allows me to explore new cultures, meet diverse people, and experience different ways of life. So gardening is another hobby I cherish. So it brings me peace and connects me with nature. So I have noticed how different gardening is here in Singapore compared to Sri Lanka, which has been an interesting learning experience. So I'm excited to hear and share my journey and tips with you all. Yeah, over to you, Henry.
Thank you, Himashi. Now, before we dive into our today's main topic, let's share a bit of our personal experiences living in Singapore. All of our student marketers have been here for some time, so we can give you a glimpse of what it's like beyond the academics and cultural aspects we're discussing today. To start, let's go around and share one thing we really like or dislike about living in Singapore. Chen, could you start us off?
Definitely, Henry. So, I've been a local here. I've been living here all my life. And one thing I really like about Singapore is the vibrant food scene. I've grown up enjoying a variety of delicious dishes from many different cultures. There are always new hawker centers, food courts, and new restaurants popping up all over the place, where you can find all different kinds of food, including my personal favorites like Korean, Japanese, and Thai cuisine. Plus, there are always really nice cafes and really trendy ones at that, where I can relax after a busy day studying at the university. However, as someone who has lived here all my life, I sometimes find the fast-paced lifestyle a little bit overwhelming. Rushing assignments, rushing for work, putting that grind in. It can be really challenging to find quiet moments in such a bustling city. But visiting our beautiful parks and nature reserves really helps me to unwind. Back to you, Henry.
Thanks, Serchin. I completely agree with you about the vibrant food scene. For me, one of the best things about living in Singapore is the incredible efficiency of public transportation. The mass rapid transit, also known as MRT system, can get you from one point to another in less than an hour, and the buses are so timely with minimal waiting at bus stops. Both the MRT and buses are also incredibly clean. However, coming from Mongolia, where the weather is always so amazing, the constant heat and humidity here in Singapore is very challenging for me. Mongolia has 4 distinct seasons, and I especially miss the cool autumns. But the dynamic, bustling lifestyle here in Singapore keeps things exciting for me. Now let's hear from Judy, who is originally from China. Judy, could you share one thing you really like or dislike about living in Singapore?
Sure, Henry. One thing that I really like about living in Singapore is the cultural diversity and racial harmony. It's amazing to experience so many different cultures, races, and religions coexisting peacefully. This level of diversity and equality is something we don't celebrate as much back in China. For example, I recently visited Little India and I celebrated Diwali, which was a wonderful experience that I had never had before. I also love how Singlish La helps me connect with the locals and makes the conversations more fun. On the downside, I sometimes miss the cooler seasons that we have back in China. The constant heat here can be a bit tiring, but I have learned to manage it. I also appreciate the safety and the cleanness of the city, which makes it feel very comfortable and secure. So here's my opinion on the topic. Back to you, Henry.
Thanks for sharing, Judy. Now let's hear from Himalshi, who is from Sri Lanka. Himalshi, what's your perspective on living in Singapore?
Yeah, thanks, Henry. So, one thing I love about living in Singapore is the greenery and how well maintained the parks and gardens are. So, it was shocking to see how Singapore does its landscaping. Every town has a beautiful gardens, and there seems to be a tree every 100 meters. So the level of care and maintenance in these gardens is amazing and reminds me a bit of home in Sri Lanka, though it's different in its own way. Yeah. So on the flip side, I find the cost of living here quite high, so which can be a bit challenging at times. But overall, so it's been a great experience adapting to life in here. So I also enjoying the high level of public safety and the modern amenities that make a daily life very convenient. So yeah, this is my opinion. Over to you, Henry.
Thank you, Himalshi. It's wonderful to hear everyone's unique experiences and perspectives. Living in Singapore certainly has its highlights and challenges, but it's these experiences that make our time here so enriching. Now that we've shared some of our personal insights, let's move on to the main topics of today's webinar. We have 3 important questions to discuss, and I'm excited to hear everyone's insights. The first question is, how can international students manage the high cost of living in Singapore? This is a significant concern For many students coming from abroad, including me, for instance, finding affordable housing and managing daily expenses can be quite challenging. But with some smart budgeting and exploring student discounts, it's possible to make life here so manageable. Let's move this to Searchin. As a local student, could you start us off with practical tips and strategies that might help international students navigate these challenges?
Sure, and thanks for the question, Henry. For me, I think in our daily lives, one main way we can manage costs is to eat at food courts, where meals typically range anywhere from $5 to less than $8. I mean, everyone needs to eat, so this is a great tip. Near JCUS, we have the Sims Drive Vista Food Center, which has over 40 hawker stalls offering a variety of cuisines, including vegetarian, Western, local dishes, and Muslim food. You know, my personal favorite is the green chili chicken rice that's in this food center, and a plate could go for about $6, so definitely affordable and budget friendly. Another main strategy I use too is to cook your own meals. You can buy groceries from big supermarkets like Sheng Siong or NTUC, which offer the lowest prices for vegetables, meat, spices, anything you might need to cook. Additionally, international students should try to stay near the campus to avoid transportation costs. However, public transport here is still quite affordable, with fares ranging from 80 cents to less than $2 per trip. For relaxation, there are many free basketball courts in HDB complexes, soccer fields. We even have a field behind our school, where you can play sports at no costs. Given the hot weather in Singapore, you can also do indoor exercises if you wish, with motivation from YouTube videos, HIIT workout videos, anything you might like. You can effectively manage your costs by focusing on these affordable options in Singapore. Hope these tips help, Henry.
Thanks, Searchin. Judy, as someone who has experienced moving from China, staying here for 8 years, what are your thoughts on managing the cost of living here?
Thanks, Henry. One thing that helps me was sharing the accommodations with other students or friends, which can split the rent and utilities. For example, if a twin sharing $1,000 worth of the accommodations with the aircon, you can just pay the half. Usually, the accommodation also provides the free Wi-Fi for us to study, so we don't need to worry about the Wi-Fi costs. Additionally, the university also provides us with the free Wi-Fi for students too. Another tip is to shop online using the platforms like Lazada and Shopee. And when we are back in China, we usually use Taobao for shopping, which you can find very good deals and have the items shipped to Singapore at very low costs. Instead of going to the cinema, you can watch movies and shows for free on YouTube, or you can subscribe to Netflix for a wide range of content, which can be made affordable in a long run. Lastly, consider buying a bicycle. If you live near the campus, cycling is a great way to save on transport costs and stay fit at the same time. Back to you, Henry.
Thank you for those tips, Judy. Lastly, Himashi, how about you? What strategies have you found helpful in managing the high cost of living?
Yeah, thanks, Henry. Actually, I agree with Judy. So, because like sharing accommodation. So, additionally, Singapore has Housing Development Board, we called HDB flats, so that you can share with friends, which can be cheaper. So, I'm also actually sharing my room with other roommates, so it's super cheap for me as an international student. So for those staying for at least 2 years, consider getting a SIM-only plan for your mobile phone. So these plans are usually cheaper than contract plans, so costing less than $30 per month. including internet usage. So if you prefer a contract, you can even get an upgrade phone as well. So for books, you can always find what you need in our university library, or in Singapore, you can go to Singapore National Library, which allows you to borrow a few books at very low cost per month. Which is more affordable and environmentally friendly than buying new books. So these are some cool tips to help to save cost, and hope this will help any prospective students who will not think that Singapore is always high cost of living. Yeah, over to you.
Okay, thank you all for sharing those practical tips. Now let's move on to our next question. What are some cultural norms in Singapore that international students should be aware of? Understanding these norms can help international students such as myself integrate more smoothly and avoid any cultural misunderstandings. Serchen, could you share some cultural norms that international students should keep in mind?
Absolutely. Let's dive into some important cultural norms that I think you should know about. First and foremost, public cleanliness is taken very, very seriously in Singapore. There are many strict laws and heavy fines for littering or just, making the place in public places disorderly. So make sure you always dispose of your trash properly in the green bins or any rubbish bins that you can find dotted around Singapore in the HDB complexes, shopping malls, and even in our school. Another example is durians. Lots of Singaporeans like to eat durians, but we all know that we cannot bring durians and we cannot eat durians on the MRT. This is because of the smell that it creates, it permeates, and it disturbs other passengers. Chewing gum is also banned in Singapore. And if you're caught littering, you might have to do community service like sweeping the streets or the parks while wearing corrective clothing. Not a very nice experience. It's also important to be aware of no smoking zones. Smoking is prohibited in many public places, and you should familiarize yourself with designated smoking areas. For instance, a large part of Orchard Road, as well as gardens and parks, are smoke-free zones. A good tip is to keep a lookout for yellow boxes. Stay within the boundaries of the yellow box, as those are your smoking zones. Universities like our campus, James Cook University, are also smoke-free, and attempting to smoke on campus can result in fines. And last cultural aspect for me is to, keep in mind that tipping is not a practice here. Unlike in Western countries, people in Singapore don't really tip their service crew, as it is not expected because service charges are usually included in your bills already. Back to you, Henry.
Thank you, Serchen. Judy, could you add your perspectives on cultural norms here in Singapore?
Sure, Henry. One aspect that I found interesting is the use of the Singlish. Phrases like la or lol are very commonly used in cultural conversations, and which can help you connect better with the locals. I also realized that it's important to learn how to queue here. It seems to be a popular pastime in Singapore, whether it's for the latest iPhone or a Coldplay concert, a limited edition Hello Kitty toy from McDonald's, or just opening a new bubble tea store. Lines form very quickly. Singapore has a reputation for organizations and orders, and queuing is a big part of that culture. Even at our campus, during lunch, I sometimes see how our Mala Xiangguo food store gets an extremely long queue, as it's very well known for its delicious spicy food. Back to you, Henry.
Great points, Judy. Lastly, Himalshi, what cultural norms have you noticed since moving here from Sri Lanka?
Yeah, thanks, Henry. So, yes, in Singapore, the dress code is quite simple. So, just a t-shirt, shorts, and slippers or sandals. So, this is probably because the climate is extremely hot and humid. So another cultural norm I have noticed, so which I feel is very Singaporean, is how people reserve their tables. So with the popularity of hawker centers, like food courts and other dining options, like we can see that it's a really common for people to take need to secure their table while they go to order food. So locals often place personal items like tissue bags, umbrella, or water bottles on the tables to chalk or mark it as reserved. So I'm also doing actually now these kind of things to reserve my table. Yeah. So if you see an umbrella at an empty table, so don't assume it was forgotten. So it is likely being used to save the spot. Yeah. Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Himashi. Growing up, shopping is really a big part of our culture. And actually removing items that people have put down to chop tables can result in a fight. People can argue with you about that because it is a very big part of our traditional culture here. So thank you everyone so much for those insights. Learning so much about how our student marketers view cultural norms in Singapore is amazing. Lastly, let's discuss our final question for this webinar. What are the top tips for adapting to studying well at the university in Singapore? Adapting to a new educational environment can be very challenging, but there are always ways to make the transition smoother. Henry, could you start us off with your top tips for adapting to the educational system here?
Thanks, Sir Chin. Like you said, adapting to a new educational environment was very challenging for me. I moved here 2022 November, so now it's been a long time. I'm very used to it, but at first it was very challenging. But since I have experience, I would say to the newcomers to always come on time and don't skip classes. Because in Singapore, the Immigration and Checkpoints Authority, also known as the ICA, requires a 90% attendance rate. So my first tip is to be punctual and attend all your classes. Secondly, actively participating in your class and engaging with your professors is a great advice because they are very approachable and very willing to help. Forming study groups with classmates is also beneficial as it's a great way to share knowledge and support each other. Lastly, make use of the university's resources such as the library, counseling services, which can provide additional support and guidance towards your studies. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Now, Judy, what tips would you offer new students adjusting to the educational system?
One important tip is to be proactive in seeking the help. Don't hesitate to ask questions during your lectures or just visit your professors during their office hours. They are there to support your learning, and taking the advantage of their availability can greatly enhance your understanding of the material. Another crucial tip is to manage your time efficiently by creating a study schedule that include regular breaks. This will help you to stay organized and also reduce your stress and ensure that you have enough time to review all your subjects thoroughly. Additionally, participating in extracurricular activities is the essential for balancing your academic and your social life. So joining the clubs, sports team, or student organizations can help you make new friends. You can also develop new skills and feel more integrated into the community, which I'm doing now in JCU. Engaging in these activities not only enriches your university experience, but also provides a well-rounded balance between your study and your leisure, making your time at university more enjoyable and fulfilling, which is all we have in JCU.
Excellent advice, Judy. Now, lastly, Himalshi, what are your top tips for adapting to the educational systems in Singapore?
Okay, thanks, Henry. So, I would say, firstly, get familiar with the online learning platforms used by your university as they are essential for accessing course materials and submitting assignments. So, secondly, take advantage of workshops and seminars offered by the university, which can provide additional skills and knowledge. So lastly, stay organized by keeping track of deadlines and setting reminders of important dates. So yeah, those are my opinions.
Okay. Thank you all for sharing your insights and tips. It's great to hear different perspectives and practical advice on these important topics. We hope this tip and insights shared today will help you adapt to life in Singapore and make the most of your university experience. Remember, being proactive in seeking help, managing your time effectively, and engaging in extracurricular activities are key strategies for success.
As we wrap up, we want to remind you that this session was recorded and a copy will soon be available via our social media platforms. Please take note of our next webinar, Navigating Life in Singapore on an Allowance of $1,000, which will happen next month on the 26th of July from 12 to 1 p.m. Singapore time.
Now we'd like to open the floor to any questions our guests may have. Please type your questions in the chat box and we'll address them one by one.
I actually see two questions, Henry, from Miss Hazira. So the first question is, were there major culture shocks when you first arrived? I think Henry can take this first one as an international student. Maybe you can share your thoughts. Any major culture shocks?
Major cultural shocks. Not really, because I had an expectation of Singapore as a very developed country with very kind and welcoming people. So as expected, it was, and not that big of a cultural shocks I had when I came to Singapore, no, because I had expectations before I came here. What about from Himalshi, who's from Sri Lanka?
Yeah, thank you. So for me, actually, like cultural shocks mean like, yeah, before come here, like I had some because I'm missing my family, those kinds of things, not the cultural shocks actually. So actually, I also agree with you, Henry, because Singaporeans and other international people, students, all are really very welcome, all welcome. And our university also actually arranged several programs to gather together for the locals and the internationals. So I think I didn't experience about the cultural shocks, but for sure, yeah, because this is really different from Sri Lanka. Like Singapore, Sri Lanka is different, right? So therefore, a little bit some challenges I had, but yeah, can manage it. Yeah.
Okay, next question we have, any affordable ways to explore Singapore and its attractions as a student, considering accommodation and daily expenses can be quite pricey? I think we'll move this question to Tserchen, who is a local Singaporean student.
Well, I think affordable ways to explore Singapore. As I mentioned, if you're into nature, Singapore has many nature parks. Doesn't really look like it because our map is so small, right? But actually our nature parks are all well connected with our park connector system. So I actually have an app on my phone that I use when I'm looking for these places, and it's called All Trails. So you can download All Trails, you can, take a look around our green spaces. Or if you're looking for more quote-unquote touristy attractions, you can always look at Klook. So I'm not too sure if you know about Klook. Klook is a website that offers packages for many tourist attractions and activities in Singapore. You can always get them slightly cheaper rather than buying from the websites themselves. I would say, as a student, we do have quite many free weekends and sometimes even free weekdays when your lessons allow. So definitely do check out these more popular places first, and then you can speak to local students if you want to find out about, hidden gems and, the more laid back or beaten paths of Singapore. I do agree with you that accommodation and daily expenses can be quite pricey, but as I shared, cooking your own food, which I do on like at least 2 to 3 days a week, I cook lunch for myself. And opting for cheaper food options, can help to moderate our expenses in Singapore.
What about
Right.
Judy, who's from
Sorry?
Vietnam? What about Judy? Same question. Any affordable ways to explore Singapore?
For me, because I came quite early at age about 12, so I'm always just going around with my parents. So I'm not so sure about like the better ways to explore the Singapore, but just using the public transport to see the country and just do activities around the campus or around Singapore. Yeah.
Next question. What is the average living cost in Singapore? I think as an international student, Himashi and I should answer this.
Yeah, how to say average cost like? Okay, so for me, actually, I always in budget because yeah. So yes, let's consider about the cooking thing. So as Taichen said, like yeah, for sure, if we are cooking, it's really cheap. Then it's for me like because we can take a lot of vegetables because I'm only chicken, so not other meats. So then yeah, so cheap for like 4 pieces drumstick 3.5 something like that. Yeah. Yes. So can I say the average for like okay, I would say the week. A week maybe like for when I'm buying things, the foods for $30 like that. So yeah,
Let's say a month. What's
it's
the average cost of living in a month?
a month, right? Okay, yeah. So if it is takes 30, then we can take it like that, right? For the month. So yeah, like 120 something, but only for the food. But actually, I already talk about the accommodation, right? So I'm also sharing. I'm living in the HDB flats. I'm sharing my room with 3 girls. So for that, actually, for I saw that 450 and to 700, we can find sharing accommodations. That's mean you have separate bed, but sharing bathrooms and living rooms like that. So yeah, I think per month all 2,000, 2,500 or maybe lower. It's actually depend on the person, right? So see the way that I'm not eating other meats, only chicken. So I prefer a lot of eat to vegetables and fruits. So if the person eat like meat, actually it's depend, but average like 1,500 or maybe 1,000 below 1,000, we can manage it actually. Yeah.
I agree.
Right, shall we move on to the next question? Did you face any discrimination and how did you deal with it? Kind of a touchy topic here, but definitely, a point of contention for everyone. Maybe the international students can take this. Shall we pass this question over to Judy?
I'm not so sure how to answer this one.
I'll take over.
Did you face any bullying, any teasing when you first came to Singapore?
When I first came, I speak little English, so the other countries people just don't want to talk to me. So I just only find other Chinese people to talk and to be friends with. So yeah, that's the most that I face, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think social exclusion, even if it's unintentional, can have some lasting effects on people. So it's a great reminder to everyone to be kind to all those that are around you and to include your friends, when you're going for meals and having your discussions after class. How about you, Himanshi? Do you face any discrimination when you came to Singapore?
No, never. Actually, not at all. So because the beginning also I said that this is a warm welcoming. Actually, I feel so good because I'm always like the previously I missed my family. I feel so sad. I miss my friends and like that, miss family, friends, and everything. But when I'm here, actually, I said the previously I'm a PhD student. So we have in our JCU University we have more than 50 PhD students. So all represents different countries actually, including Singaporeans as well. So yeah, actually, so the Singaporean, they help me to adjust here, and other international students also help me to find the cheap things here and find accommodation. Actually, no any discrimination for me. Yeah. So and also the university also we have a lot of facilities, so the staff and every people are so kind, so nice. So therefore for me, the outside people, if you say the outside, because I shifted 2 times my place, that's mean my accommodation. So those people is also so good. Now I'm staying with the Vietnamese family, but yeah, they are also really good. They say, actually, when I'm saying the first, I'm from Sri Lanka, they never know about, oh, where's Sri Lanka? They don't know. So it took so much time to explain, okay, this is my country, like that. So yeah, yes, of course, Sri Lanka is a small country, but it's an island. But yeah, actually, for me, really good. No any discrimination. Yeah.
That's very good to hear as a local student. I'm glad my
Yeah.
students and my friends are treating you guys well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, shall we move on to the next question? How did you manage your finances effectively while living as a student in Singapore? I think many of us have shared our experiences and our tips on this question.
Yeah.
I think maybe we can get a short point from Judy on this.
Sure. So for me, as I am in Singapore for 8 years now, and also I am a Singapore PR, so I can do some part-time jobs here outside my school life. So I can earn some money to have more to spend, and also I monthly tracking my expenses, so I can see like where I did spend too much or where I can spend a little more. So it's easy for me to manage my finances here. Yeah.
That's good, that's good. Okay, and actually on that topic, we have our next question about part-time jobs. So Judy, you did mention you were a PR. So now back the question, are other international students able to get part-time jobs here? Henry, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, sure. Does Singapore allow students to take on a part-time job? How did you find any opportunities? International students cannot work part-time jobs in Singapore because you have a student pass and you only study for 2 years, full-time student, bachelor's degree. So you cannot work on a student's visa, unlike the local students or like Judy who has a PR. So in short, yeah, you cannot work part-time job while studying here in Singapore. Shall we move to the next question? My query is, as we will be facing a lot of teething troubles in the beginning, will the professors help us to get through the tough initial times by guiding us in terms of academic angle? Let's move this to Himalshi.
Henry, I'm sorry, can you repeat it? Because some noise I heard at the outside.
Oh,
So,
sorry. Okay.
yeah.
My query is, as we will be facing a lot of teething troubles in the beginning, will the professors help us to get through the tough initial times by guiding us in terms of academic angle?
Yeah, sure. Actually, for the PhD student, as a PhD students, we have professors, as we call the supervisors, right? So every person has more than two supervisors. So really, they are really helpful. So if we want to need any help, so we can just send an email or just we can take a time as we needed. And I know for the undergraduate students as well, I think you four guys answer for this better, because you three, I don't know about the undergraduate process, but for the PhDs and masters, I know for sure. So if we want to take some advices from lecturers, or actually in our university we call the academic counselors, academic advisors. So if we need, for the international students, something including me also, struggling with some English grammar, something, right? So that time we can make an appointment, we can easily go with them and talk with them, make an appointment and take a meeting, like that we can do it. Yeah, I also did.
What about Searchin? Same question to you.
I think because my course is so niche and specialized, right? I'm doing a Bachelor of Science majoring in aquaculture. I don't actually have many different professors. Most of my professors teach me for multiple subjects. So I am able, and my friends are also able, to form really good, solid connections with our professors. So even after school, not after office hours, but after lesson times, we can, always approach them for help. We can always drop them a message, drop them an email for guidance. And the guidance doesn't have to be limited to academics, actually. It can also be for, future work, research, etc. Yeah.
As a business student, I think our lecturers, tutors are different for every subject, unlike Searchin. But our lecturers, professors are very welcoming and very easy to approach. I mean, this is university, not high school. They will not come to you, check on you, are you okay, this, that. They won't do it. But whenever you come up to them, ask questions, any problems you have, they will gladly help. So that is my experience on this.
That's nice. That's very nice. Shall we move on to the next question?
From my friend Pao. Looking back, what would you do differently or advise incoming students about life in Singapore? Let's give this to Judy, shall we?
For me, actually, I'm not so sure if I want to change anything, but as I mentioned before, I love doing all the volunteering works. So when I came 8 years ago, I studied in middle school. So from that point onwards, I just do all the voluntary works all around the campus, all around Singapore. So that way I can find many friends outside and have more connection to the Singapore community. So I think for me it's quite good until now. Yeah.
What about Himalshi?
Oh yeah. Could you please tell me what is the question, right? Yeah.
Looking back, what would you do differently or advise incoming students about life in Singapore?
Okay, yeah. So that's mean I'm agree with the Judy. Yes, because I know she's really engaging with all clubs, volunteer works, and everything. So I can see her photo everywhere. I never website and everything. Yeah, agree with Tasha, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, of course. Actually, it's really good tips to I would like to say for the new students. So in our university, James Cook University in Singapore, we have a lot of clubs and we are organizing a lot of activities, including conference like that. So I would like to say please come and join with that. And also, especially, we have a student marketer family. So yeah, so that's been, it is really good. It was really helped me to adjust in here, because when I'm joining in this university, I was so new to here. Then first thing, I joined with the student marketer family. So then I did a lot of a lot of activities, and I met a lot of people representing different countries. So we have a lot of gatherings, like events like that. So I would like to say yes for the new students, because don't be isolated. So we have a lot of events like things, come and join with that, and you can get a lot of experience. And if you fear about the speaking in English, or if you fear about the language, so yeah, this is really good tips to you reduce those kinds of issues actually. Yeah.
Next question. What advice would you give to students about safety and security in Singapore? Let's give this to the local student, Serchen.
Okay, so I think growing up, I've probably taken safety and security of Singapore for granted. But now that I'm grown and older, I think it is something that I really laud Singapore for. Our civil service, police, etc. They are very, on the ball, very responsive. Our emergency response teams here are also really quick, really responsive. I think that's the good thing. Border security and just overall culture also affects how safe Singapore is. I mean, just now Himashi mentioned like using personal items to chope tables and reserve seats. So I've seen people using their laptops, their handphones, their bags, and in Singapore, no one really takes these items. I think we don't have many crime committers here, which is good. Also because, we have CCTV everywhere, and we have something I think is quite new also, but I recently saw it. Citizen volunteer groups, which will help to enforce and watch over the other citizens, and they are in contact with the police and things like that. So everyone actually does play a part in Singapore for the safety and security, and I think it's very ingrained and part of our culture to make sure we perpetuate that notion throughout our society, and to also, let our international students and our tourists feel safe here. For interesting question actually from Kelvin. Hi, may I know if there are certain things or maybe gadgets that we should bring that can be useful as an international student in Singapore in the long run? Interesting.
Interesting
Can you
question.
want to take this question?
Yeah, sure. Personally, I'll just answer this question very personally. There's nothing in particular that I needed to bring. When I came out, I thought, oh, I should have brought that. No, I never had that thought. The only thing that bothers me is that the food or the drink of Mongolia, because over time you tend to miss those things. So when I went back home for vacation, I brought back my herbal tea mix so that I can make my tea at home. Yeah, it really helps me to feel back at home. So this is an advice, personal advice.
So food and drinks definitely will help to make you feel more comfortable here.
More at home, yes.
Yeah, how about Himashi?
Yeah, Taishan. So for me, because I didn't know about that for before I come here, so therefore I got a lot of things from Sri Lanka to here. Then and my luggage also, they mentioned that okay, heavy luggage like that, because a lot of things I bought that, because at that time no any webinars like that, so I didn't know about that. So I did just search and bought a lot of things. But when I'm reaching here, I saw that, oh my God, why I bought those kinds of things all here, right? So yeah, for me, for the especially if you want to bring something for especially for medications, you are taking some pills and something, if you want, then it's okay, you can bring it. Because personally, like I would say, like taking some medicine or something, it's a little bit expensive as a foreigners for me. So therefore I'm using those medicines for me, especially I'm taking because I have asthma, so I'm taking those medicine. Yeah, it's really good for me. If you have some kind of something, then it's better to use, yeah, inhale or something if you want. And I think no need to bring the clothes or a lot of things. Like you can buy it here because we have a lot of online shopping platforms here and so cheap. So like Shopee, Lazada, and Shein, a lot of apps here. We can buy everything that you want. And when comparing with Sri Lanka, it's so colorful, so pretty thing here. So I actually planning to go back to my country. So next week, so I already bought a lot of cute things to, yeah, packing, because those kinds of actually things a little bit cheap and like we can buy it. Yeah, for me, yes, I think no. So yes, I agree with the Henry. So if you would any special things like herbal drinks or something, yeah, like that. Yeah, that's it.
That's good. Yeah, I think you mentioned something very important. I think medicine is something that we should not forget if you definitely need it for your stay here. We have
Yes.
time for one last question, actually. And just nice, we have one last question in the chat box. Is it hard to get accommodation in Singapore? Do you have any advice or things that you look out for? Let's get all three of the international students to answer this question, starting with Judy.
For me, I know that JCU have a company that's like helping for getting the accommodations for our students. So maybe you can check out our school website, which can helps you to find maybe near school accommodations, or like accommodations is good for our students. So other than that, I'm not sure I can have more advice. Yeah.
How about the other two? How
Yeah,
about Himashi and Henry? Any
completely-
tips to add?
I agree with Judy. The school has a company that offers house for rentals. I would say it really depends on what the student's budget and what the student's preferences are. Let's say he or she wants a room with a balcony or with a window with a view, or he or she doesn't mind sharing the room, etc. It really depends. So the more luxury it gets, the more expensive the rent gets. So just keep that in mind.
Definitely,
And
yeah.
other than that, no advice.
Anything to add, Himashi?
Yeah, like yes, I'm agree with both of them. And also like we have regional managers in our university, right? So for me, I did actually before I come here, I contact regional manager in South Asia called Mr. J. So and I asked some opinion from him as well, because he also referred me to use the university web page. And also you can find some accommodation things in the like when you search in, it's called Taoxian's property guru or something, right? So various kinds of apps also have, and you can find some information from there as well. You and yeah, those kinds of information I would like to say yes.
That's a great tip. Yep.
Okay. If there are no further questions, we'll wrap up here. Should we take this last question?
Yeah, sure. I guess so. We have one last question.
And this may be a little off topic, but may I know if the education in JCUS offer practical learning as well, since I'm taking a major in business, which I think would be nice if we could take some of the theories while actually applying it in real life situations. It's a very long question. Judy, as a business student, how would you answer to this?
Also, I say I'm a first year of business, but I'm currently in the changing of the courses, so I'm not sure if I can answer this question yet. Yeah.
So I'm a business student as well, but I'm not really sure if I understand the question, but I would say the subjects and the lesson here, the learning here is very good. I definitely recommend because there are many theories in business economics, finance, data mining, all that in the business course. So I would definitely say go for it. It's worth it.
Okay, I think we are running short of time, so apologies to the person who just asked the question. We do have our student marketer website, which you can drop questions in. Maybe you can ask that question in our student marketer website. We also have hotlines in our school website that will direct you to our staff officials that work in school.
Thank you again to everyone for joining us today. And thanks to our speakers, Judy and Himalshi, for sharing their valuable insights.
We appreciate your time and your participation in today's webinar. We hope you found this webinar helpful and informative. Stay connected with us through our Student Marketer social media pages for the recorded session and for more useful information.
The recorded version will be available on our LinkedIn social media platform in approximately 1 week. Additionally, we will send a follow-up email to all registered participants with access to the recording. Mark your calendars for our next webinar in July. Join us for Authentic Conversations, Student Marketers, Survival Guide, Navigating Life in Singapore on an allowance of $1,000. Whether you're considering James Cook University or just curious about student life in Singapore, this event is tailored for you. Gain first-hand insights from 4 current student marketers on budgeting in Singapore, happening on 26th of July 2024, Friday. And the time is from 12 p.m. until 1 p.m. We look forward to your participation. And thank you once again for being here today. And have a great day.
Bye.
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 Bye.